Okay, ready to get back to work here today. Finishing up the regular season. Got to keep pressing forward, and think the guys will be ready to. They've been in here today already lifting and watching a little tape. Seem pretty excited to get back to work, which has been good through all that's happened throughout the course of this year. The one thing that I can say about our guys is they've been eager to play, and they've had many opportunities not to be like that, but they've been really eager to play. Looking forward to having one last home game. There's 22 of them that this is going to be the last game that they play. Here for West Virginia. So they're excited about it. I'm excited about it to be able to prepare for them, much like we treated Senior Day last year. When we had Pitt here, that's Senior Day for their last time here. But the way I approach these seniors is to be able to enjoy a good bowl experience with them, and that's truly their Senior Day. So we'll go through the process and lean on them to finish this year strong. There's a lot in our mind. There's a big difference in 7-5 and 6-6. So. We will approach this game just like we do each and every game, as far as this game being a whole lot more about us than it is our opponent. We will work our tail off to get as prepared as we can. It's going to be challenging. I made reference to it yesterday. It's going to be challenging from a scheme standpoint. These guys do a lot of different things. We don't. And a lot of teams in our conference don't. You only get 20 hours a week with them, so it's our philosophy not to change a whole lot from week to week. Do we change specific things and tweak specific things? Yes. Especially the same thing with our opponents. There's just at this time of the year, kind of who you are is who you are. But with Kansas, it's a situation where, especially offensively and special teams wise, they do a variety of things, which means we got 11 games to look at, and the challenge is going to be trying to figure out what their approach is going to be. And if we fail to recognize that, then we're going to have to do a great job in game of trying to recognize what they do. They became a little bit more of a running team. Offensively, they're going to lean on their two backs, Sims and Pearson, two good players, really two good players. They're a top 20 team in the country when it comes to rushing offense. Switched their quarterback mid-season to their freshman, the redshirt kid. The Cummings kid is a talented kid. He's going to continue to get better and better. But they're going to run the zone read with them, and they're going to try to establish the run, and then they're going to try to put the ball in play when they need to, which they'll bring in the Chris kid to be able to throw the ball down the field at times. But our job defensively is going to have to be identify what their sets are and identify the different looks that we get. They try to confuse you with a lot of the different schemes that they've been able to run this year. So we need to identify kind of what their plan is going to be and make some adjustments on the sidelines. Ultimately, to me, defensive football is getting in your gaps, defeating blocks, and making tackles, which we've done in the run game a good bit this year, for the exception of tackling Iowa State's quarterback, which we didn't do a very good job of. We've done a relatively good job of stopping the run. Okay, so which means I think we match up with them pretty good. Our offense is going to do what we do. Get the ball into a couple of our players' hands as much as we possibly can. Defensively, they're very well coached. Dave Campo is a good football coach. He's been around for a long time, and is going to present some problems from what they do. So it's going to be a challenge. Special teams wise, they do a bunch of different stuff. Nothing statistically jumps off the screen from a special team standpoint. They do like to change their schemes up a good bit. So again, we're going to try to figure out what to practice against, and then go out there and try to make some in-game adjustments. So business as usual. Looking forward to the game. Excited to get out there with 22 guys for the last time here at home, and hopefully we can get away with the win. So with that, I'll take some questions.
Danny, where do you begin trying to figure out their run? Do you look at what you guys maybe haven't done so well that matches up with what they do really well? Do you look at maybe similar opponents that defend the way you do? Any clue where you start?
Well, you got the material. You do like you do each and every week. I mean, you look at what they do in specific situations. You look at what they do against specific defenses, and not only the situations but the down and distances, that sort of thing, and try to figure it out. I mean, when it gets right down to it, it's still just football, right? And we're going to practice on what their tendencies are, and then we're gonna line up, and we're gonna try to get our guys to where they get in the proper gaps and defeat some blocks and try to make tackles. And then when they put the ball in the air, our guys' job is to cover people and get the ball on the ground. So it's still football. We're not talking about anything else other than that.
While you are what you are at this time of year, with the way you've played pass defense so far this season, would you expect them to maybe change a little and throw the ball more, or stick with their strength?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, if you look, they tried that earlier in the year, and they weren't as successful with it, which is why they kind of settled into, being a little bit more of a zone read team and just try to focus. I mean, they got two really good backs. They got their starter Sims is going to be a 1,000-yard guy. He didn't play in the first 2 or 3 games of the year. I would give it to him quite a bit just because he's one of their better players. And then the Pearson kid's a guy they move around a lot. He looks like Tavon. I mean, because he plays different positions, and they get him the ball a variety of ways. So if they split him out and try to throw it to him a bunch, then we just got to cover him. Those two, much like, I mean, who do we give the ball to? We give it to number 1 and number 3. That's probably not going to change a whole lot at this point. So, if they do, we could obviously use the work on it. So hopefully they drop back and throw it a good bit so we can continue to get our young kids in position to make plays and get them to the point to where their technique's better and where their playmaking ability's better and their alignment and assignments better, and we continue to age these guys at a faster than normal rate.
Over the last couple of weeks, how different has it been with you guys running the ball as well as you have? I mean, have you noticed any changes? Has it opened other things up for you? And I guess what's the reason behind why the run game is going so well for you guys right now? Well,
just personnel more than anything. I mean, we probably wouldn't have won that game last week if we wouldn't have done the correct thing when it comes to Sean. If we would have rushed him back and put him in, and him not be ready to go, then he probably wouldn't have been able to carry it 18 times for 130 yards. So I think our approach with Sean was the best thing, and obviously he made a difference in the game. He's hard to tackle, and in that type of game, just getting that ball and moving forward was pretty important. And then, continuing to experiment with some different things with Tavon has been beneficial. So I think it's been positive. We're moving the ball better than we had in 3 or 4 of those games prior to that. So it's beneficial to what we're trying to do offensively.
How's Sean doing after obviously an increased workload last weekend?
Oh, he's probably extremely tired, and he probably won't be able to play this week. I mean, 18 carries is a lot, right?
Considering what he's been doing, it's a lot.
Well, he had plenty of rest.
I said there's a big difference between 7 and 5, 6 and 6. Is there any pressure off for you guys knowing that you do have that 6th win under your belt? I mean, does that change?
Nah, well, I mean, yeah, probably. But, if we can just relax and feel good about it, then we'll probably get beat this week. I mean, that's the nature of college football. You got to get it over with. I mean, the one thing I told you guys this after the game, what I told the guys in the locker room is don't think you've accomplished anything else other than just a win. It's not going to help us next week. Let them get away from it for a couple of days. I mean, we've been at this, pretty much every day for 4 months, 3 or 4 months. So giving them a few days off, I think, was in the best interest of our football team, which means they need to come back here eager and ready to go. We hadn't met with them since the game was over. So when we meet in here in an hour and a half, we're not even going to talk about Iowa State. We're not going to cover anything that happened in the game. We're not going to talk about it. We release the players of the game. There it is. It's over. It's done with. We're not going to talk about it. So the first thing that comes out of my mouth when I meet with the team again here in an hour is going to be Kansas and what we got to do to beat Kansas and the preparation that needs to exist in order to beat Kansas and get to know your opponent, respecting your opponent. If our guys have learned anything this year, it's you better be ready to play, regardless of everybody. You know, all 10 opponents or 9 opponents in the Big 12 are capable of winning on any given day. I mean, I think that's been proven this year. And Kansas is no different. They're a couple points away from having 3 wins under their belt in the Big 12. So we got to be prepared to play hard and worry about ourselves and improve on what we do and do whatever we got to do to win the game.
Along those lines, what's the danger, I guess, of playing a team that has 1 game left, hadn't won, probably just wants to get 1 at this point, so it's not a 0. But I would imagine, especially with a week off, is ready to pull out every available stop.
Yeah, I mean that's just the nature of the conference that we're in. I mean, usually you got to play 3 or 4 teams that are in this situation where now we don't get to play any. You know, if you look back on our last 8 games have been against ranked teams that are going to a bowl. So everybody we've played this year has been motivated to play. I don't feel like, and this was different last year, but I don't feel like we've lined up one time this year and played an unmotivated football team for various reasons. I think everybody's been ready to play. So the fact that we're going to line up for a 12th time this year and play a team that's motivated and ready to play, well, it's the way it should be. So is it problematic? I mean, every game's problematic. We'll just leave it at that.
Danny, you had a couple injuries in the game at Iowa State. Anything significant out of that?
Yeah, Banks is out. Nothing surgically. Hopefully we get him back for the bowl game. We'll just see how the preparation goes. But he's out. Was there somebody else?
Fight.
Yeah, fight. We'll see how he does today. He's on the practice, but we've ruled out Banks for the week, which means we got to get those guys. Somebody's got to step up at corner and play football. So we'll line some people up here this week and try to get some guys ready to cover some people. But fight will be in practice. We'll see how he does. We'll be practicing today.
After not having played running back for 3 years, moving Tatum back there, did he have to learn certain things again or reestablish? I mean, what did it take for him to make that switch?
Didn't look like much. Even last week the box was more challenging. You guys could see that there was not just a ton of space, and even with that, I mean, he never really got out in the open, but he was still able to get 5-6 yards a pop. That tells you that he's just capable of doing that. So there's still some things, and we're going to continue to experiment with this, but there's still some things that it takes practice time and reps to be able to play the position that we don't have time left in his career to be able to teach him that stuff. Could he do it? Absolutely. I don't think there's anything the kid couldn't do when it comes to being a running back. Do we have the preparation time to be able to teach him a bunch of stuff, or do we just continue to find ways to get the ball in his hands that makes sense to him at this point in his career? So, it's a little bit more than just go right or go left, but there's not a whole lot more else that we can do without taking an off season to teach him.
Without asking you to second guess yourself on not making his move sooner or whatever, was there a coaching lesson in this when you have an exceptional player like that? That maybe you learned something out of it too. We've been trying to continue to find ways to try to get him the ball. I mean, the guy's caught 103 passes. He's caught over 200 and some passes in 2 years. I mean, have we failed getting him the ball? No. I mean, it's a little easier to get him the ball when he's standing right next to you as opposed to, slot or wide out.
But I think we've accomplished getting him the ball in a variety of ways. I mean, we've been creative with it on reverses and screens and sweeps, and this was the next step to that. That it was experimental, and we didn't know how we would handle it, and it turns out he handled it pretty good. Would it have benefited us to do it 6 games ago? Probably. But you only have 20 hours a week. You can't come up with a whole bunch of things to experiment with when you're in game planning mode, and you only have a limited amount of time to be able to spend with the guys.
How much input, if any, do you have with a player who's considering leaving before his eligibility is up, like for the NFL? Do you talk to them about that, try and sway their opinion at all?
Yeah, I haven't talked to anybody this year about it, which I think I understand what you're talking about. But what we did last year with several guys is there's the NCAA, in NFL, you can file paperwork which is a projection, as far as what they think your draft status will be. So there will be several juniors on our team that we will do that with. Just like last year, there was several juniors that we did it with. That's pretty common. And then when it comes back, that's when you sit down and you have the talk with them.
What's Kansas do defensively, and what are you guys looking for this weekend?
They're pretty base, pretty sound. Mixed coverage. It's very well coached. Don't get out of position. A lot of zone. To where we got to find some holes in there. Play hard. Play tremendously hard. Got very well technically sound. Do a good job of getting off blocks. They're actually better than Iowa State in the red zone. So they've been giving up a lot of yards. Okay, so people have been moving the ball, much like Iowa State. They've been giving up chunks of yards, but then they tighten up in the red zone. And that's a sign of good coaching. You can tell when the field's reduced that their defense reduces some and they just bow up and they play good defense. So our game plan needs to be the same as it was last week, which we did a good job of getting points once we got in the red zone. We were 3 of 3, but 3 other field goals, if I'm not mistaken, maybe one of them was the one we missed, that we got close to the red zone around the 30-yard line, 25 to 30-yard line, and had to settle for a field goal. Kansas does a lot of the similar things. It's a bend but don't break defense, but with that said, they bow up at the proper times. So based on how the game's going, it depends on if we need a lot of points or not. If we get in those situations and we're needing points, then we'll keep going forward. If field goals were important, which turns out those 3 field goals were obviously pretty important for us last week, then we need to settle for points.
Into the final third of the season here, Carl looks like a much older, smarter player too. Has he just found himself there, or has he just kind of made it a little bit easier? Looks like he tackles a lot better. Doesn't really launch himself so much. He's in good spots.
Still missing some tackles, but he's always with that. It's you want him to be somewhat reckless. There's been 1 to 2 hits a game that have been like, whew, everybody. They're game-changing hits. And if Carl wouldn't play like that, by playing like that, he's probably going to miss a tackle or 2 every now and then. But he's able to play like that, somewhat out of control. But shoot, I think he had 8 tackles last week or whatever it was. He's been our most consistent kid when it comes to what you're getting from an effort standpoint, from a production standpoint. With that said, he's still relatively young, obviously, and will continue to get better and better. But he's what you're looking for on defense. Really proud of how he's matured at a very young age and how he's produced at a very young age.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, appreciate it, guys.